Hare Krishna. So, how many sons did Rishabdev had? How many sons did he have? 100. And who was the eldest? So when Rishabdev retired, who became the king? Bharat Maharaj. And how the land of India became known as Bharatvarsha? Due to after King Bharat. So King Bharat ruled for a long, long time. And then he retired also. So as I mentioned, the Vedic culture was at some point one retired from his household responsibilities. And they used to go to the forest. That's how the name Banaprastha came. Ban, the word ban is coming from van, means the forest, and prastha means retire or leave for the forest. So the king, he was the ruler of the entire planet, so opulent, so powerful. But all of a sudden, just left everything behind. And as I mentioned, the purpose was that during this household life, so many attachment developed. Now is the time to detach from your attachments. Household life naturally involves relationship, and relationship means attachment. It's natural. But the thing is, there is a danger is remaining attached. The goal of life is to properly face death. And how can one properly face death? What is the way to face death? Remembering Krishna. Ante Narayana Smritihi. Ante means at the end. At the end of the life, that means at the time of death. Narayana Smriti. Remember Narayan or Krishna. Jang jang bapi smaran bhavam tajatante kalevaram. With whatever thought one leaves his body, accordingly he gets his next body. So this point will be very beautifully established through this episode of Bharat Maharaj. Therefore, one should be very careful to remember Krishna at the time of death. And so King Bharat retired and he went to the forest on the bank of the Ganges, bank of the Gandaki river. Gandaki is one of the holy rivers. Actually, the Shaligram comes from Gandaki. And what they used to do, after retiring, they would go stay at the bank of a river in a forest. But in that forest, they would create like a garden situation. And they would spend their time there. And that is called Tapoban, the forest for performing austerity, tapasya. So, King Bharat was spending his time being absorbed in thoughts of Krishna, meditating upon Krishna, remembering Krishna, serving Krishna. So the purpose is to lead a life completely centered around Krishna. As Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita, The way to how to become Krishna conscious? Jat karosi, jatasnasi, jat juhosi, dadasi jat tapushoshi kaunteya, tat kurusha madharvanam. Jat karosi, whatever you do. Jat juhosi, whatever you eat. Jat karosi, jat asnasi, whatever you eat. Jat juhasi, whatever you offer in sacrifice. Dadasi jat, whatever you give in charity. And jat tapasoshi, whatever austerities you perform, should be done for the sake of Krishna, for the sake of pleasing Krishna. That is spiritual life. Everything is done for Krishna, because doing for Krishna means spiritualizing. So Bharat Maharaj was spending his time in that way, and he has almost reached the stage of bhava. Bhava means feeling the transcendental emotion for Krishna. Their gradual development, adu shraddha, tato sadhu sangha, ato bhajana kriya, to anartha nibritti, tato nishtha, ruchi, ashakti, rati, bhava. So this is the bhava, just a stage before prem, developing love for Krishna, feeling that transcendental attachment, emotion for Krishna. Did not fully develop into love, but just a stage before love. He had attained such an advanced situation. But then one day when he was sitting on the bank of the river, meditating upon Krishna, he heard the roar of a lion. And then he saw that hearing that roar of the lion, one deer became frightened. It was a female deer, a doe. And out of fear, she tried to jump across the river. And she fell, and she was pregnant. She gave birth. She delivered the baby deer, and she died. So then Bharat saw that this baby deer was being swept away by the current of the river. So Bharat Maharaj saved the deer. And naturally this newborn deer needed a lot of attention. So Bharat Maharaj started to treat the deer with affection. And the baby deer survived, but Bharat Maharaj gradually became attached to the deer. So much so that when the deer grew up a little bit, started to go out, and if it went out of its sight, if it went out of his sight, then he became extremely worried. What happened to this baby deer? Did any ferocious animal come and eat it up? So this way Bharat Maharaj's entire attention shifted from Krishna to this deer. This is such a wonderful example of the influence of Maya, the illusory energy. He left everything. He left his children, he left his grandchildren, he left his wife, he left his kingdom, he left everything. Came to the forest to develop Krishna consciousness, develop his attachment to Krishna. And in spite of making such progress, he became attached to this deer so much so that he forgot about Krishna. The deer occupied the entire mind. He was constantly thinking about the deer. Whereas Krishna told, Manmana Bhava. The process of becoming Krishna conscious is to think about Krishna. Mind should be completely occupied with Krishna. But here his mind became occupied with this baby deer. Such an accidental turn of event. And then finally, the time came for Bharat Maharaj to leave his body. So at the time of leaving his body, who did Bharat Maharaj think? He thought of the deer. So this is how it will happen. Wherever our deepest attachment is, that will be the thought, the last thought. It's not an accidental thing, like we can't say, well, I'll think of Krishna at the time of death. It's an easy thing to do. No, it's not going to be so easy. For example, when you go to sleep, can you plan that tonight I'm going to dream about this or dream about that? No. Then your will doesn't work. At that time, your mind takes you according to its natural flow of attachment. Wherever the deepest attachment is, that will be the last thought. Therefore, be careful where you're developing attachment. And nowadays I see people are leading such a dangerous life. Because most of the people are becoming attached to their dogs. And they say also, they openly admit, dog is man's best friend. They forgot their wives, they forgot their children, they forgot grandchildren, but their whole mind is occupied with their dog. Best friend. So now you consider what's going to happen to those people, those who have developed such deep attachment to their dogs. It's interesting to note, G.O.D. God and D.O.G. completely opposite attachment they develop. Prabhupada actually told us, I don't want to broadcast it, so please don't tell it to everybody. I'm confidentially telling you that Jawaharlal Nehru became a dog in Sweden. Like he was the Prime Minister of India, so well respected, so famous personality, considered to be one of the greatest statesmen of his time. But now, this is how our karmic, meaning our mental trend, leads us to our next life. So, Bharat Maharaj, because of thinking of the deer at the time of death, got a deer body. But because of his spiritual advancement, he was a Jatismar. Jatismar means a person who remembers his past life. So although in a deer body he could remember everything, who he was and how he got into a deer body. And then Bharat Maharaj, even in the deer body, he maintained his detachment. Even in the deer situation, he did not want to develop any attachment. So soon after his birth, he left his dear father, dear mother. And he went to the ashram of the sages. And when the sages would discuss spiritual topics, as a deer he just sit there and listen with rapt attention. So this is another thing. Although in a deer body he maintained his memory and intelligence and Krishna consciousness. And also, even in a deer body, he did not indulge in sense gratification. As a deer, what could have been his sense gratification? Soft green grass and tender leaves. So he deprived himself of that also. He would just eat only dry leaves that have fallen from the trees. The fallen trees that have considerably dried, he would eat those dry leaves. So you can see, as a deer also, he was performing such austerity to control his senses. Otherwise the senses are uncontrollable. Durbara indriya grama. Durbar, impossible to control. And the senses are so dangerous. So this way Bharat Maharaj now left his deer body. But in his next life, Bharat Maharaj was born in a Brahmana family, as a son of a Brahmana. But in this life also Bharat Maharaj didn't want to take any chance. Because he was remembering his past life, he remembered what happened. Remembered everything, that he was a king, King Bharat. Then, due to his attachment to this deer, he developed his deer body. And then now he is born in a Brahmana family. So, from his childhood, he started to pretend as if he was retarded. Why? Because if he was expressing his brilliance, then everyone will become so attached to him, he'll become so dear to them, and he is running the risk of attachment, being attached. So in order to remain detached, he started to pretend as if he is devoid of intelligence, he is devoid of speech, he just started to act like a retarded child. And as a result of that, everyone started to neglect him, and that's what he wanted. The only person who maintained his attachment, deep attachment to him and affection towards him, was his father. His father was very affectionate to him. And the father, naturally, born in a Brahmana family, so he wanted him to become a Brahmanical in his practice. So he wanted to give him a second initiation. That means, at that time, of course, there was no second initiation, because there was no Harinam at that time. So initiation was just one course of action. So they wanted to give him Gayatri, and he pretended that he can't pronounce the Gayatri mantra. So this is how Bharat Maharaj was spending his childhood. And then when his father died, his brothers cheated him, neglected him, thinking that he is useless. And they would deprive him of his share of the family wealth. They would sometimes give him some food, many a times don't even give him any food. So Bharat would just go and bake some food from somebody, or people would just give him some food in exchange of engaging him in all kinds of menial work. So this is how Bharat was being exploited by different people. But he didn't mind, he just carried on, happy as ever. Then one night, he was engaged in guarding the field. You see, the paddy fields, after when the harvest is ripe, crop is ripe, it runs the risk of being attacked, being plundered by wild animals, like wild boars and all those wild animals. Sometimes the deers and all, they come and eat up the harvest. So they have the system of guarding the field. How they guard? They put some tin containers and they beat it. So whenever they see some animals are coming, they just beat it and the animals run away. So at night, Bharat was guarding the field, and at that time, some dacoits, it was a new moon night. And on new moon night, sometimes the dacoits, in order to fulfill their desire, they worship Kali. And sometimes they offer different animals to Kali. Sometimes they even offer human beings. They think offering human being will please Kali very much. So they planned to offer a human sacrifice to Kali. And the worship generally takes place in the middle of the forest. The condition of Kali worship is that nobody could hear the cry of the animal when it's being slaughtered, when it's being sacrificed. So they caught one person to sacrifice, but that person ran away at the 11th hour. So they were looking for somebody to offer to Kali, and they found Charu Bharat. And so they got hold of Charu Bharat, took him, and to be sacrificed. So they bathed him, then decorated his body with red flowers. Hibiscus is very dear to Kali. Sometimes I notice, do you grow hibiscus here? Yeah. So don't offer hibiscus to Krishna. Kali's favorite flower is hibiscus. Shiva's favorite flower is datura. And Krishna's, any fragrant flower is Krishna's favorite. So whenever you're offering some flowers to Krishna, make it a point that it is fragrant. Gandha pushpa. And if it's not fragrant, then put some perfume in it. So it was, they just dressed up Charu Bharat after bathing, they decorated him. And actually, they chant a mantra at the time of sacrifice to the animal, sacrifice the animal to Kali. You know what is that sacrifice? Or what is the mantra? The mantra is, you will do whatever I'm doing to you now. That is, I'm killing you, so you also in future kill me. So that's the condition they have to make. But because they're in ignorance, they don't know what they're doing. Even the word, mam, what is the Hindi word or Sanskrit word for meat? Mamsa. Mam, Sanskrit word mam means me, to me. And sa means he. So what I am doing to him, he will do to me. Today I am going to eat him, tomorrow he'll eat me. That is the condition that one has to make. So be careful before you eat meat. In English also, did you see the word meat? Me eat. Same expression. Mamsa, me eat. So Well, they were about to slaughter Charu Bharat in front of Kali. Charu Bharat didn't protest. That is the nature of a devotee. Devotee accepts every situation as Krishna's mercy. Do you remember Haridas Thakur? What they did to him? They were beating him mercilessly in 22 marketplaces in order to kill him in public. The idea was, let everybody see what is the consequence of a Muslim turning into following some other religion. So that was their idea. Beat him up in public in such a way that everybody will see and understand the consequence of giving up his Islam religion. So, Charu Bharat was totally unperturbed. Yeah, as I was saying, they were beating Haridas Thakur. But Haridas Thakur didn't protest. He just kept on chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And in 22 marketplaces they beat him, nothing happened. I mean, one marketplace beating would have been enough to kill him. But one after another, 22 marketplaces. And these jallads, the executioners who were beating him to kill him, they got exhausted. And they're seeing nothing is, we're beating him and nothing is happening to him. So they told him that, well, we can recognize that you're a very exalted personality. But if we leave without killing you, then the king will kill us for our inability to execute his order. So please do something about it. So Haridas Thakur said, okay, then I'll die. And there was no sign of life in his body. So these jallads, the executioners, they wanted to now carry him to king. Yes, we killed him. But his body became so heavy that they couldn't lift him, as if the entire weight of the universe was in his body. So then they started to cry, oh, we can't lift you. How can we carry you? The king will think that we are lying if we don't take you to him. Then Haridas Thakur's body became light. And they carried him to the king, Muslim king, and said, okay, we have fulfilled your order, now this person is dead. Generally, the Muslims are buried after death. But he said he's so sinful that he should not be buried. Throw him in the river. What's the river? Ganges. And then Haridas Thakur's body was floating in the river, and when he came near Shantipur, he came out of the river, and near the house of Advaita Acharya, he started to chant, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Advaita Acharya was in great anxiety. He got the news that what the Nawab and the Muslim king has ordered. And he was extremely worried. But when he heard the voice, hey, that must be Haridas. And he ran, and two of them met on the bank of the Ganges. So that's a devotee. He's not worried about the suffering condition of the body or discomfort of the body. So, similarly, Charu Bharat was taken to be sacrificed in front of Kali. He didn't protest, he just accepted whatever they wanted to do with him. That is the attitude of a devotee. Whatever Krishna wants. Like we spoke about Parikshit Maharaj. When he was cursed, he did not try to counteract the curse. Well, if Krishna wants, let it be. Krishna protected me when I was in my mother's womb, and now if Krishna wants me to leave this body and go from here, I'm ready. That is the attitude of a devotee. So, but although Charu Bharat was not protesting, Charu Bharat was not resisting, he was ready to be offered. So, okay, if you have to kill me, kill me. Although he felt that way, but Kali could not tolerate that. After all, Kali is a devotee of Krishna. She is Mahamaya, Krishna's energy. So what Kali did, from her the murti broke, and from that murti she appeared. She picked up that kharga, the chopper, from the hand of the dacoit and started to chop their heads off. And some of the dacoits were slaughtered by Kali, and the other dacoits ran away. So this is how Kali protected Charu Bharat. Then after that, Charu Bharat, he started to just wander aimlessly, or maybe from one place of pilgrimage to another, because that's what a saintly personality does. He travels from one place of pilgrimage to another. So one day, there was called Rahugana. He was from the Sindh province. So it's in the northwestern part of India, Sindhu and Sobir province. He was the king of that province. So he was going in a palanquin. And one of the palanquin bearer became indisposed. So they needed a substitute. And they found Charu Bharat, a strong-looking person who looked like quite stupid. So they got him, come, serve the king. Charu Bharat accepted that. So then Charu Bharat was carrying the palanquin, but the palanquin started to shake, causing great discomfort to the king. You see, the palanquin bearers have to put their steps in harmony, in unison. If one does not, like in the army, when they march, left, right, they put the feet in unison, so all went left, everyone puts it left. So similarly, these palanquin bearers also have to carry the palanquin that way. Because if one is not in sync, then the balance will be affected. So that's what will happen. So King Rahugana became very upset. He said, "You fool, you stupid, you idiot. Can't even carry the palanquin properly." And in this way he started to insult Charu Bharat. You have a big body but a thick head. But Charu Bharat actually was not maintaining the harmony of stepping, because while he was going, he was seeing some ants and he wanted to avoid the ants. So that he would step onto the ants and kill the ants. So that's the reason why his steps were not in sync with others. And anyway, that's the first time Charu Bharat actually opened his mouth. There's a reason also. This king actually retired from his kingdom. He was going to meet the 4 Kumars to receive spiritual advice from them. And on the way, he came across Charu Bharat. So then Charu Bharat told him, who are you addressing as thick body and thick head and so forth? It's the body. But me, I am neither thick nor thin. And this way he just started to speak, establishing the difference between the body and the soul. So hearing that, King Rahugana recognized that here is a very, very exalted spiritual personality. So he immediately fell at his feet. So please forgive me, I failed to recognize you. I can see that you are a very exalted spiritual personality. Who are you? And he started to name all the exalted personalities. Are you such and such personality about whom we heard but never met? And then, and he also mentioned the danger of committing offenses to the Vaishnavas. He said, I'm not afraid of anything. I'm not afraid of Jamraj's punishment. I'm not afraid of enemies' attack and so forth. But I am extremely afraid of the offense to the Vaishnavas. Because that seals the road to the spiritual prosperity. So in this way, he begged forgiveness from him and he asked him, please advise me about the spiritual science. So then Charu Bharat he appreciated him, and then he started to advise him. He compared this material nature to a deep, dense forest. And in that forest, there are various dangerous animals. Not only dangerous animals like tigers, lions, snakes, jackals, hyenas, wolves, but also mosquitoes. And he compared all these dangerous animals in this fire, in this forest of material existence, to different acquaintances and relatives that we develop in this material nature. So in this way, he established the futility of the material existence, or the dangerous situation that one lives in this material world. And as I mentioned earlier, what Srimad Bhagavatam is teaching us time and time again, surrender to Krishna is the ultimate goal of life. Surrendering to Krishna is the ultimate solution to all problems. And surrender to Krishna gives us ultimate success. So in this way, Bharat Maharaj opened his mouth and enlightened King Rahugana. Thank you very much.